Okay, go on to intro.
You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Three, two. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall.
Yo.
Hey, and Brad Wren.
Hey, everyone.
And Greg Hectus.
What's up, everybody?
On today's show, we discuss a Season 2 development update from Greg Hill, review multiple hot fix patches with Sebring just days away, find out which eNASCAR Coke Series drivers are getting their chance at real racing, and has wet weather racing opened the door to teams getting a competitive advantage, and we wonder if the new UI will ever be perfect.
And that's right. Remember that you can follow along with us on your PC or your mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com and selecting the show notes. Hope to see you there.
So we mentioned in the intro that we were going to talk about some of the UI issues that have crept up, and I'm going to add one if it's not later in the notes. But the first one is from Dan Suzuki, and he asks if we can add a filter for sorting races by the chance of rain. And he shows a screenshot on his tweet as well that there's a bunch of different tags, but rain is not one of them.
Yeah, I like it. I do. I actually got into the UI one night thinking I wanted to run some rain, and in that moment, it didn't occur to me how to find such an event, like easily, quickly, without like, okay, this one's coming up. Let's drill into it. Let's look at a forecast. There's got to be an easier way, and so I love this idea. I think it's great.
Yeah, and instead of just having tags, when it's in grid view, you should be able to sort by columns. I don't know if you can or not, but as I've been practicing for Sebring this week, I've just been going in and having to look at the forecast on the sessions.
To me, the UI, the beta UI, that's what I call it now still, but it's daunting. There's so many events. Like you really need a good tag list or a filter to really kind of narrow it down. Even my star list is pretty daunting, and so um, it's a neat idea. I'd like to see it in hosted as well, as a way to filter hosted events, because that's where I ended up when I realized I couldn't figure this out in official easily. I jumped over to hosted and started looking, and the only clue was the title of the hosted session had the word rain in it, and that was what clued me in.
Well, you can click on it and then see the forecast before you join.
Right.
So as we're talking about UI filter issues, apparently with the updated UI, the filter is not being saved when you leave the UI and relaunch.
Yeah, I don't think there's any filters being saved. It doesn't matter what you pick on. If you go to results and you or you go to standings, for a series, I mean, every time you go in and look, you got to repick all your filters every single time. It is quite aggravating.
You would think this is low-hanging fruit. This is like one of the most easiest things to fix probably too, you would think, because it used to be that way, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen multiple reports on the forums of just other issues too. I mean, we've talked in the chat. If you run a road race, your results do not show up for almost an entire day. It's the next day before they show up. Oval, not a problem. But if you noticed last night, we ran in IS. It was on a road course. It wasn't listed until today.
That happened to me with an oval race as well. So
Yeah,
it's not just road related.
I've just been seeing it with the road.
No, with Las
Okay.
Vegas did not show up for like 2 days. The only way I was able to get to the result was looking on the homepage instead, because it'll show your most recent result on the homepage. So it's in the database. It's just not showing up on your results page. And I've sent in a ticket to the support, and they said, "Thank you. We sent this to whoever. Blah blah blah. They'll be getting in touch with you." And every time you get that email, it's a stock barrel. You never hear back from them, kind of thing.
So is that the best way to handle stuff, or is it to post on the forums? I know there's a report a problem thread on the forums. Is it better just to send something to support?
No, because forums probably get more attention because everybody else is seeing it, and they want to clean up their dirty laundry.
I bet you money they see everything. There's somebody at iRacing that sees it all. I actually think stuff gets traction when we talk about it on this show. And so that's the way I give feedback usually. Look, last night was unusual. I had to file a protest after the race. I actually forgot to, but doesn't this bug prevent people from filing protests in a timely manner because they can't pull the result?
That's why I was looking, because it was the Las Vegas race where the guy, wrecked me 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten to the point now where I just go back into the series and go to the results from the series. Pick your time slot. That's the quickest way to go back and find anything I found.
Or just use the app on my iPhone. It seems to be pretty rock solid.
Yeah, the app is great. If I want to look at standings, that's where I go. I don't even go to the UI anymore because I've got to go back and resort the filters every single time. It saves it on the companion app, but it doesn't save it in the UI.
All right, I'll pick this next one up since I'm the guy that's running Sebring this week of the people who are present. There's a huge, according to a post, and this post isn't directly from iRacing, is it? The way I'm reading this,
Reddit.
It's on Reddit. Okay.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, you can join an ongoing race session as a spectator and drive your car around on the track while the race is going on. You can't be seen by the drivers, and it's a great way to practice. But in wet weather races, now teams can have someone join the session to figure out the perfect time for switching dry tires. Our team tested it and obviously nailed a Suzuka race this way. He was tempted to keep it quiet, but there should be a gamble when switching to dry tires, being the first team to do so. If this is not fixed, then expect to see every team pit on the exact same lap for the perfect time to switch tires. Now, what he's referring to is the ability to ghost and see if it's too slick for dry tires or not yet. And so what do we do? Just turn ghosting off completely? I don't know that this is really that much of a hack, because somebody else can just go ahead and switch instead of taking the time to test and get an advantage on you. All right. And you can only do this live when the race is going on. You can't go back and do it when you don't know what the forecast is going to be. Also, another thing now, apps like Joe Real Timing have access to the telemetry on basically how wet the track is. And so you can just use that number as you gain experience on when you can switch and when you can't. So I don't think, especially as people gain experience on tracks with and know when it's safe to go wet or dry. I know Kyle did a run for us, and he went from dry to wet and said specifically, based on the size of the horsetail, he knew when he had to switch. So I don't think it's a huge advantage, because it still takes a lot of effort. And
Make sure I understand this. Make sure I understand this a little bit better. So you're in the IMSA 12 hours on Saturday. I'm not in your race. I ghost your race. And it's raining, or it's starting to dry from a rain. I go ahead as a ghost, run dry tires and make laps. And I call out my lap times as the track dries on my dry tires. And when you hear the right lap time, hey, Mike, just ran blah 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 on dries, I'm pitting. Is that how it works?
That's how it could work, but anybody who knows that somebody else could have already pit by then, all right? Whether they got their result or not. Also, how does your lap time compare to my lap time? How does your ability to drive on the wet and the dry compare to my ability to drive on the wet and dry? So it's not as clear. It's not a win button. I don't think.
Yeah, where I see this, I think you could see this probably at the top level. Is where I think this could be an issue, and those guys are good enough to where they'll look. They're going to look for any advantage that they can get, and I I don't know how you address it other than removing the ghosting. I don't really know how you address it, but um, uh, there's always for every action, there's another reaction, and that's just I don't again I don't know how you get around it, but I definitely see this being an issue in some of the top splits.
Now it wouldn't
Team
break my
red
heart.
line.
Yeah, it wouldn't break my heart if for special events they turned the ghosting off. Leave it on for the 45-minute IMSA races.
Yeah, that doesn't make a difference.
So yeah, it wouldn't be a terrible idea.
Look, I think it's a nothing burger. I see Team Redline and these big team Williams and different teams that are in the top split doing this to try to gain some kind of advantage? Probably. But is it really an advantage? Like you said, other teams could have pit at that point anyway. I say if they want to ghost, let them ghost. It's not much different than having teammates in your ear telling you, pit strategy, this and that, or doing, as a spotter, watching for wrecks, that kind of thing, feeding you information. So is this really good information? I don't know if it is. So it's a nothing burger.
It's definitely not a win button. All right. So for those of you who don't like to read patch notes and stuff like that, we have what you could also almost call a dev blog in video format. Mike, we have the season 2 update video.
Yeah, and so the first good part of this video, or three-quarters of it, details just what you said, what was in season 2. And he talks a lot about the rain and the tempest weather model, details about how it works. So it's really a good listen, but it is stuff we've gone over. Now, at the last part of the video, I wanted to highlight some of the stuff he said about the future. Now, the first thing he mentions is the NASCAR remaster project is what he calls it. But basically updating all artwork, graphics, even like stuff like curbs and the tree models and stuff like that on all the NASCAR tracks because they're directly importing those into the console game. And so they need them done for that. So and so iRacing is going to benefit from that. So that's ongoing. The endurance series is going to be growing from 11 cars, which it is at currently, to 15 and more cars over 2024 and 2025 as they continue to find graphical improvements where they reduce the load. And so that's coming. Supercars updates are coming. They're going to have a rescan of the supercar, obviously, and other Australian surprises. I would guess another track from Australia. No indication of which one. And this was a kind of the big one that people are talking about. A shocker coming on the racing vehicle front, but we're not going to say more. Now that's a quote, so I didn't try to read into it or insinuate what it might be. Now, when he said that, on screen they show a picture of a yellow school bus. So are we getting a yellow school bus? I don't know. Is that it to throw us off or what?
Have you seen yellow school buses race at figure 8?
Yeah, it looks like fun. No, look, I think it might be a whole new vehicle category. Some people I've seen speculate about, is it nitrocross with Travis Pastrana with his electric little rally car? Or is it um the Formula E series where they run the electric Formula cars, or is it something like that? Anyway, other items he mentioned was the in-sim UI changes are coming this year. Now, they teased these when they released the build, but they didn't actually put them out. And we're talking about when you're actually in the car. What does the relative look like? What does the little flag look like? The yellow flag and that kind of stuff. And so that's coming this year, he said. He said they're also revisiting effects like smoke with what we've learned during the rain development. They've learned some better techniques, for effects, and so they're going to kind of look back at their previous effects, like smoke, for example, and see if they can make it better. He says at the very end, we haven't even talked about the future iRacing rendering engine, but we'll leave that for another day.
I think that's probably the most promising one. Then I guess the question's going to come down if they're going to use something already out there, or if they're going to build something from in-house.
Well, with the console game, they went with something that's already out there, but that could be based on the current workflows they have and stuff, with Monster Games. But I think everything's on the table here. I would guess based on everything I know and we talk about iRacing a lot. I would say they're building their own, but who knows?
All right, Brad, bring us up to date on both of the hot fixes.
All right, so we had two hot fixes this week. We had one on Tuesday, and then we had one again this morning. So the one on Tuesday, they did some work on the anti-cheat software. I think they rolled it back, is what they ended up doing. They went back to the EAC, which is the previous anti-cheat software. Apparently, a bunch of users are having issues there. Worked on some connectivity, made some changes to the race servers, the way they're handling stuff. Weather system, some updating of off-track surface water values and stuff, some graphic stuff, some VR stuff, and then again on the one on today, more changes to the weather system. Changing the maximum allowable rain rate in official sessions has been reduced. So I'm guessing we're not going to have track flooding like we had earlier. Did some updates on cars. Mainly to the brake lights and some artifacts appearing on the Porsche GTP, and then did some updates with the tracks, fixed some of the cones at Sebring, I guess some improperly installed curbs, and then some object rain sounds have been fine tuned. So, I mean, it's typical, when we have a patch or get an update and we end up with a couple patches. I just was, I'm on vacation this week and they take it down twice this week. How frustrating is that?
You mentioned the rain and the flooding. I don't know if you came in, but I took Justin on to teach him how to race in the rain, and when we went in, several guys mentioned that I'm pretty sure JRT had not updated, but I'm pretty sure the rain was 100% wet, and they said that if it was this wet in real life, they would red flag it. You would just not run in it with it that wet. Now I went on a server earlier before I ran a IMSA Sebring because Sebring is running dry this week. They're running dry in at night in IMSA, but it was at 87% for a good part of the race, and it was drivable. I was able to keep the car under control, and then when it dropped to the next number down, 67 or so, and I cut about 5 seconds off my lap time almost as soon as that happened.
Yeah, I mean, we talked, I think, last week. I mean, when Suzuka, that first day of Suzuka in week one, I mean, it was literally like flooding. You couldn't even hardly get a lap in. I mean, you could. It's just you were poking around. So, again, I'm all for let's having some rain, but again, it needs to be realistic. There's no reason to try to get out there and run on a flooded track because it wouldn't happen in real life.
Well, it says it's been reduced slightly, to get maximum amount of rain. I like this third bullet point. It says vastly improve the processing load for calculating track reference lines and wet awareness in reference to the weather system. minimizing the demand on race server CPUs.
So that was probably some of the stuff that caused the ring problems the very first day that rain came out. Did we hit both hot fixes, or did you just read off the first one?
No, that was kind of both of them. So
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, this next one is missing my reply. Did you not see my reply, Mike, in Discord?
I got my reply in here, so you can tell us what you said.
All right. So we got a post, and you asked me if I should put this guy on my watch list, and the answer is no. All right. It's a post from Glenn McGee from Sim to Reality, and he starts on cold tires and makes a lot of pass. It passes, I guess, like 10 Lambos in 2 corners, but he passes them all on the outside. He never dive bombs anybody and never really puts anybody in danger. So, no, I would have not had a problem with this person because he can clearly handle it. Right? It's a little bit different than somebody who dive bombs when you're already committed to turning. Right? If you're committed to turning in and he goes on the outside, it's not too bad because all you have to do to not wash out into him is let off the gas a little. You're not in danger. If somebody dive bombs you on the inside when you've already committed to the latest breaking point, you either turn or you go off the track, or you either turn into him or you go off the track. You end up having no choice. So it's definitely impressive. The guy is fast. He's signed with, and he says basically when Andretti signs a gamer and wants results after results ruin your qualifying, he said they wanted 10 spots before the sit was over, and he got it in the first few corners. But it was that's definitely not something that's going to ruin everybody else's race. What gets somebody on a quote unquote watch list is somebody who ruins people's races when it's definitely not necessary.
I was thinking if this was iRacing and I'm coming up to the start of the race and it's lap one, turn one, and all the cars are 2 by 2 going through lap one. And then you got some bonehead, who got a running start. It appears he got a running start, because you're in the car, you don't know. But he comes flying up the outside and, passes 5 rows of cars, in the first 2 corners. Most iRacers are going to say, watch out for that weapon. People are not gonna. They're not gonna be like, wow, that guy's impressive. They're gonna be like, watch out. That was kind of my take on this.
And when I watched it, it's just not what I saw. And I mean, I would call that if I did. He didn't jump the start. The 2 cars on the left lane, one of them just didn't go because he gets run into the rear by the car right behind him, and then you see his gigantic gap, and the racer in the video, he just catches up to the car on the outside. He doesn't basically cheat the start.
Nah, fantastic start by Glenn. Just what it is. I mean, it's a fantastic start. I don't know. It looks like a great series. I don't know why we don't have it in iRacing. We've got the car. I mean, I know we've got the Ferrari Challenge, but just if you watched any of the races, any of the spec races that run with IMSA are just fantastic to watch.
So okay, so you guys are in agreement that Glenn is, proudly boasting about this move, as a gamer or iRacer. He's kind of insinuating that, one iRacer, put him on 4 cold tires and we're going to make something happen.
Well, in this, I mean, he would it's one of those, if he had messed up, we probably would be calling him a weapon maybe, but he made all of the passes on the outside, and really the only place that it was 3 wide was that turn 1, right?
Yeah.
Once they got through the rest of the complex, the rest of the cars had already thinned out into one line, and he was passing them on the outside of the corners. He was not unsafely diving anybody.
No, I mean, and if you watch any of Sebring, I mean, every time there was a restart, this was pretty much common pattern. You've got to capitalize on that first corner. If you get a good launch, man, you got to go. It's just what it is. I ran a Sebring race yesterday, and we start basically on the Oldman stretch, and as soon as it's green, here come guys, 3 guys flying past you on the right side because they've lagged back. Well, it is what it is, and thank goodness they didn't tear anybody up.
Well, this guy didn't lag back, I don't think.
No, I know.
Lagging back is different. Also, this guy's probably not a 1500 I rating guy either. It's probably somebody who can drive a little bit closer to the edge and not ruin everybody's race. Okay? I can't. I'm not that good. So I'm going to try to be more conservative and not put myself in those positions.
It's like he dropped a gear down on everybody else and just took off.
Hey, when you got to go, you got to go.
All right. Well, next up, Brad, we got a North Wilkesboro update.
Yep. So we had a post from Dale Jr. Showing the video from iRacing scanning. I guess Wilkesboro. So they've been out testing, I guess, last week or so. They finished the repave, and I think trucks were out there, and a couple was out there turning laps, and I think I even saw some of the late models out there this week as well. But apparently they've iRacing has rescanned it, which is good. So the one thing I guess I think we talked before, being gone for 6 or 7 years, back when they used to have to scan tracks, they set the tripod up and had to do all the little pans and stuff like that. And I guess now they're doing it in cars.
Just drive around with the stuff attached to a car, pretty much. You're right.
Excited. I mean,
I
I think it's going to be good to get an updated. It'd be nice.
Right. Now, I definitely hope that we have 2 versions of this track. They don't, retire the original. Let's have the original one, and that, because this one's different. They've worked on it, right?
Do we still? I mean, at one point, what do we have? 2 Daytonas after they did the repave. Is that still? Do we still have the old Daytona or no?
I don't even know. Yeah, I think we do. The bumpy one, yeah.
Yeah, most tracks they were leaving a legacy version on there, and then there was like a couple where they completely did away with it. Is it Pocono or Phoenix? The old one went away completely.
Phoenix.
Yeah, they've done it both ways.
So I would say never get rid of a track, but the only thing about leaving those tracks on there is that means they have to continue to troubleshoot them every time.
Update it, service it, right.
Whether they change any graphics or not, they still have to make sure every new car works on that track if they keep that track active.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
So the other thing that happened besides iRacing scanning North Wilkesboro is NASCAR bought Bowman Gray today. And some of the rumors.
I don't think they bought it. They're going to manage it. I don't know if they.
Oh, is that what it is?
I don't know if they bought it. I don't know if I go that far.
Are they going to make them stop fighting?
Seriously, come on.
The NASCAR video with Ben Kennedy, and she asked him, "Are you, talking about having cup cars on this track?" And he's like, "Yeah, I mean, we talk about a lot of stuff." And so he said yes, that they've talked about it. But some of the rumors the fans are talking about today was Bowman Gray for the Clash, or Coda loses its date to North Wilkesboro, who takes on a point date, and then Bowman Gray to the Clash.
I could see Coda losing the date. I mean, both tracks are owned by the same. Both of them are owned by SMI. So again, that's just a shifting of resources and money just from one place to another. And I mean, through the years, how many times we see SMI buy a track just to shut it down so they could pick up a date for another one of their tracks?
But this isn't SMI. This is the NASCAR company, and SMI is the other company, right?
No.
ISC.
Yeah, but I'm talking about with Coda and Wilkesboro. They're both owned by SMI.
Okay. But they don't own Bowman.
No. Look, if they run the All-Star race, I would rather see them running at Bowman Gray than I would in a baseball stadium.
Not the All-Star race, the Clash.
Or the Clash, rather. Yes, I'd rather see them run it there than run it in a baseball stadium. And you asked if
Actually, you could put a bigger track in a baseball stadium.
I know, but
It's a football stadium that they have it at.
I know. Again, it's just
You could actually almost. I wonder if you could squeeze a half mile in an actual baseball stadium. You got me thinking now, because the reason it has to be a quarter mile at the Coliseum is because that's that football stadium, but the, baseball fields are bigger, a lot bigger.
So we got the Arizona Diamondbacks air-conditioned building downtown Phoenix. You know, how about there?
well, there
The
was some
grass
talk.
actually rolls out. You can move the grass
Yeah.
out.
I mean, there was some talk about, I guess, Dodger Stadium. This was a couple weeks ago, when they said they weren't going to return to the LA Coliseum. So I don't know.
The quarter mile is just too small for these cars.
Needs to be back at Daytona.
Or they could run it on the Legends track. All right. Well, here's let's shift a little bit to sim to real comments. I guess just about every Cup driver has an iRating now. I'm guessing. And how
Every
does
Cup
your
winner
iRating?
this year?
Every Cup winner, yeah, actually. And so the question is, how does your iRating compare to the 24 Cup Series winners? Because their average iRating is 39.91. I'm sitting at 37. So, hey, that's interesting because there's a lot of guys that are at 6, 7, 8, 9.
So which one's dragging them down?
We need a list now.
Well, they're probably not trying to really do what the guys who run Road to Pro do to get their iRatings really high.
Right. I imagine a lot of these guys, don't run it on a regular, like you say. Maybe during the COVID time when they were running for Fox, but maybe not a lot after that. I would think, because they're busy people. So, but I think the coolest thing about thinking about this is, look, a lot of iRacers think, Kyle Larson, oh, these guys are superstars. They are out there, on the real track, but when you put them in a sim against, 250,000 other people, they stack up somewhere in there, at an average of about 4,000 I rating. And, if you're around that number, you can compete with these guys. Why not?
And what I've heard a lot of people say is that iRacing can get you trained up for real racing, but if somebody is mostly a real racer, it's a little bit harder to come back to iRacing. A little bit. Though some guys have done pretty good with it, like Bobby Labonte did quite a bit of iRacing and really enjoyed it, and Tony Kanon's all over it.
Harvick has talked about that. He's got a podcast now through Fox, and he's mentioned that a few times, is trying to go back the other direction for him is a struggle, because he was never much of a gamer, stuff like that. And then during COVID, he did it, and I guess Keelan does it, but he says he struggles. Again, it's because it's all for. I mean, a guy that's probably never. Look, you're using two different things for us that are sim racing. It's hands and it's visual. There's no, for the most part, most of us don't. There's no seat of the pants feeling. If you're somebody who's done both, it's two completely different things. And I raced years ago, and I can relate some of the sight stuff to what I used to feel when I raced. So that to me, I think helps. But if you've never done never been much in a simulator, and just been in the car, sometimes I think there is a hard transition to try to get the two to carry over.
And that's interesting because when I drove the late model at Memphis, I don't remember a thing about the seat of the pants feel. It was all visual and sound for me. I didn't feel the G-forces at all. It was literally like I was in the sim. It looked like the sim.
Your brain.
It looked like the sim. It sounded like the sim. I felt like I was in the sim. I didn't feel the G-forces at all.
How many races did you do?
I drove 8 laps.
8 laps, yeah.
I wish I had done more
That's
because
8 more than I've done.
About 6 or 7 laps. I was it was, you know, it was just like when you jump on a track. I was like, okay, I can feel what the car's doing. And they had 3 cones set out. They had your lift cone, your brake cone, and your gas cone. And by about lap 6, I was like, man, that gas cone is really too far forward. I can get on the gas a lot sooner. And I was about to start doing that, but ran out of laps.
Yeah. So I mean, I've done Richard Petty drive experience. I've done the Rusty Wallace, but I did race for a year at a local track here. And again, you can relate it when you've done both. It's very easy to transfer the two back and forth. So
I don't know if it works this way in every place. I know in some places you basically just get to run a parade, but the event at Memphis was nice because you literally just had a spotter in your ear that would tell you to get out of the to get low when the guys that were doing the 2-seaters would pass. You had to let them pass, but other than that, you got to run on your own. There was no pace car.
So I want to digress over on this topic, about racing with our Cup heroes. This week I got to race with SVG, and he put up a hosted session open to everybody in the rain. It was Road Atlanta, and he had a couple different showers, with 15 minutes in between them, basically. And I got in right at the end part of the first shower, and I got out on the track, and I can't even get it through 1 and 2 without spinning out, kind of thing. And here he comes flying by on this super wet track. I was so impressed that and of course he had the fastest lap. He was like 3 seconds faster than anybody in the room. And so anyway, it was kind of neat to be on track with him. I eventually, as the rain stopped and it dried, I was able to get some laps under me. Didn't even come close to approaching the times of others, but it was fun to watch him go by me. The Shane Van Gisbergen is his name. Yeah.
All right, tell us a little bit about this next video, Mike.
Well, this guy Daniel Gray 10 posted up on the Twitter a short video of a cone. The car in front of him hits a cone in a braking area. It looks like Sebring, and that cone flies up in the air over the top of the car and actually collects the back wing on the car and removes it, knocks the wing off the car. I've never seen a cone do that before. That's unusual.
yeah, I think I posted that in the chat that I didn't think cones could hurt the cars. Now I know in the second update, the one we had today, said that they I guess they fixed some of the cones. I think it was Sebring. I don't know, but I've never seen I mean, you run over cones, you hit them, they fly away, they come right back the next lap. I've never seen one come up and actually damage a car. That's cool. I think that's as cool as can be.
Look at the very beginning of the video. There's the 4 cones on the grass. The 2 are actually knocked over. So those are probably the 2 that they're talking about.
Yeah, those have been there all week. So, but again, I mean, who hadn't been in a race where somebody loses the front, loses a nose off the car, and you don't have to worry about avoiding it because it doesn't do any damage. But what if it did? I mean, again, I've never seen a cone come up and cause damage to a car.
I have. Well, what it was just in a practice. I hit the blue cone, and then I pushed the damage report button because it sounded like a hard hit. And he said, "You got front end damage."
But I don't know. I'm all for. I still think, like I said, if there's a nose piece out there on the track and you hit it, I think it ought to cause damage. It just should. I think it would be awesome.
Well, that they don't now. The debris doesn't.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I thought what the cones would do. I mean, I've never seen a cone come up and damage a car, but clearly knocks the rear wing off the Porsche once it guy drives past it.
Yeah, and this is new because at some point it didn't. I know that at some point you could hit the cones all the time you wanted.
Even in an open wheel car, you could kind of get the cone caught in between the front wing and the tire and drive around until you lose it, but it doesn't break anything. Doesn't tear off the front wing like you think it would. Maybe it does now.
All right, we've got another Coke driver jumping into a real vehicle, Brad.
Yeah, so we had an Instagram post from Vicente Salas saying he's going to get the shot to drive. He's running this weekend at Coda in the 20 truck for Young's Motorsports. So I think Vicente has done some other racing, whether it's late models and whatnot, but I think just, great opportunity to see what he can do. So exciting to see guys again, just like Mc- with the Lamborghini driver. I can't think of his name. Again, some of
Glenn
the
McGee.
there you go, Glenn McGee. These guys can go from the sim to real world racing. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah. And iRacing just put out an article about it too. He's got a Q&A in here. I'm going to read one of his answers here. He said, I started racing at age 15, which is much later than most professional race car drivers. Making the jump from shifter carts to late models was definitely a difficult one. The eNASCAR Coke Series helped me prepare for real world scenarios and sensations. Considering I'd never stepped into a full body stock car before I qualified for the series, looking back on it now with all the different categories of racing, I've been blessed to compete in the real world racing as well as sim. I think it will be a massive help, allowing me to quickly adapt and make the most of this amazing opportunity.
Nope. Look, I can tell you. I mean, I raced back in 2005, and I had been sim racing for probably close to 10 years before that. And I definitely think, and I was just running a local track, but I definitely think it helped me just because, again, there's just things that you're comfortable doing. It's just getting up to speed. So, again, I know it definitely helped me.
Look, does anyone know who Vicente Salas is without the Coke series? I'm saying that's his ticket into NASCAR was him getting his name out there in the NASCAR community by doing well in the Coke series. Sure, he was in, shifter carts and he got some opportunities in the late model, but I think that was because of the Coke series.
I agree.
Well done.
Well, yeah. So looks like we've got a driver coming from the Coke series and jumping into. Wait, did we already cover that? Oh, this is a different guy.
Yeah, they're coming out of the woodwork. This is Matt Busa from Chicago, longtime eNASCAR series driver, and he's going to run his first ever real race at New River Speedway on March 23rd. It's called the Grand National Super Series.
It's definitely going to be a new experience for him.
I hope he does well.
Look, if I owned a race car, I'd hire Matt Busa in a second. I mean, the guy is an alien, man. I've raced him before at Chicago Street actually last year in NIS, and he is quick. I mean, he is like one of those alien guys.
I've raced him at New Hampshire, and he'd go down on the bottom lane when everybody else was running the second lane.
He'd go down on the apron and pass everybody. Is what you mean?
Well, that's the apron basically at New
Yeah.
Hampshire. It's not actually the apron, but it's so flat there as well that the first lane essentially is an apron. So I mean, this is almost the same as the wheel stories. We're just getting one after another of sim drivers making their way to reality. So let's talk about things that might be becoming a reality in iRacing. Brad, we've got the season 3 build list rumor list.
Yep. So we've got a forum thread from Kyle Knoll, asking what do we know about season 3. So some implied stuff. We've talked before. They're working on a NASCAR, an update to the trucks. They've said it's coming in June. Possibly the Ford Mustang GT3, the Chevrolet Corvette GT3. Again, there's some sort of unknown vehicle, which we alluded to already. Possible new racing series with the FIA, multiple tracks. We know some have already been scanned. Circuit de Navarra, Ring Circuit, Oswego. Continue talk about career modes. And then some stuff that's also talked about. Confirm future build stuff. They've talked about doing a refresh of Spa, uh, Brands Hatch, Alton Park. We know now they've obviously scanned Wilkesboro, um, Winchester. They've talked about being in Asia. We know they went to England to do a couple more tracks there. So again, updated ARCA body, possible new street stocks. They've talked about the GT3 pit animation. Talked over and over again about the remaster project for NASCAR. We touched on that already. They've also talked about an Xfinity truck Ford update decal, decal update in the future. So, unconfirmed stuff. Anderson Speedway, Indianapolis Motor Speedway Dirt Oval, that'd be new.
This is a
Florence,
maybe no list.
yeah. Florence. I'm surprised we don't have Florence yet, as far as short tracks go. So look, I think it's good to kind of think about the stuff. I mean, look, I guarantee you, if we went back through some of the past threads that are in here, we'd be like, oh wow, we talked about that 2 years ago, and now we finally have it.
We always end up with more than what people expect, I think. There's so much stuff going on. That list you read is comprehensive. I mean, you think, they had this big project finally end with rain. They're not resting on their laurels, as they say. Lots of projects ongoing.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked in the past. I mean, if you've been around the service long enough, I mean, you can remember. You go back 10 years ago. I mean, you'd be lucky if once a quarter, if you got a track, maybe a car. I mean, it really was nothing like what we get now. So kudos.
I didn't realize this next one was a dead post from the past. But they were asking for a cart. Remember when IndyCar and kart split and we had the turbos and the cart, Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti and those guys? Yeah, that'd be fun.
Except since we just got relations reconnected with Indy, should we really go with
That's probably
with the
rubbing
guys
salt in the
who
wound.
basically dumped them, right?
Yeah, kart was a good era though. It really was.
Those were great cars. That's what people want is the car.
But did those run ovals or were those road only?
Oh yeah,
No,
they
they
did
were.
oval.
Yeah, it was about half and half.
And they were quicker, I think, than the Indy cars because of that turbo.
Yep. Michigan, and I mean, just some good races back in the day.
All right, next up is a question: where can we find the 2023 special events posters? And is there an answer?
Yeah, there wasn't any. Last year they just did regular graphics, like 4x3 graphics for the special events. As you notice this year, it's a poster, like a vertical poster on the special events. And I think that's what he's referring to. Did they have the vertical posters for the previous year? And so I answered him and told him, no, I think they just have the graphic, which is kind of a poster, but it's different.
Okay, I didn't make the connection that it was last year that they were asking about.
Yeah, the ones from this year look fantastic.
Which also led me to post, I have a source to laser print these onto wood that gets framed. Living room quality stuff.
Well, if we
And
get a really good result at Sebring, that might be a good thing, and put our results on it as well, right? I'm excited
yeah, I
about
have a
this
source
Sebring
for that.
because it's so different. It's going to be so different with the rain that it's just going to be less predictable. And whereas most of the time, once that leader is 2 laps ahead of everybody, unless he just gets around somebody who's stupid, you can't catch him. There's no cautions, right? Usually.
That's what we need. Somehow we need full course cautions. I don't know how you implement it, and I don't know how you do it, but that's the one thing endurance racing needs.
While you're talking about Sebring and the rain, there's a lot of discussion in the forums around like there's different Sebring start times, right? There's 4 of them, and the rain is going to happen at the same time in all 4 of them, right?
I do not
And
believe so. Not if it
oh,
runs the same way the 2 hour officials do. Okay, because I ran a lot of Suzuka last week, and if I got in race 8 o'clock, whatever, it was 8:45 because it's not they're on the 45s. It might start raining and go to the dry, and then the next race I got in, it never rained. So it's not the same forecast. It's the same overall forecast, but it's not the same what actually happens for each session, only for all the splits in the same session.
Yeah, I think we maybe did we talk about that last week that there was something going on with the
We
weather?
did.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
We
it,
did.
was
And
it was
they
predictable.
clarified.
Yeah,
That's what they clarified is that it will change each time new sessions start, but the 30 splits for the first time slot will all have the same weather pattern. And the 30 splits for the second weather slot, they'll all get their own same weather pattern. Though I don't know if it's on the script or not, but you mentioned did you mention this actually on the show last week that they already announced that they're expecting it to be about 2 rain showers and not at night. I think you said it during one of our NIS races. It's gonna rain twice, is what Greg has told us, Greg West, and it will be during the daytime.
yeah. It's later in the
he said
script.
that in the forums.
So we knocked that one out. But before we get on down there, Mike, let's talk about some highlights from this weekend racing.
Yeah, they've been putting this out every week. You guys might have seen it in your inbox or in the app. Uh, and it's basically a list of what's going on in iRacing. We're not going to read everything, but I wanted to highlight the IndyCar iRacing series because we had an we had our first race, then we had an off week, and now we're back. And so I want to make sure everybody participates in the IndyCar iRacing series. We're at California this time, the defunct racetrack. In fact, I saw a picture of that racetrack today that, man, they really tore it up. There's nothing left.
It's not defunct. It's just been destroyed.
Destroyed.
So
First oval of the
which is
year.
worse? I mean, you're saying it like that's less bad.
Well, again, we're supposed to get something. We're supposed to get a short track. We're supposed to.
Look, IndyCar at California, that's going to be a blast. I'm going to run it Saturday night. I think Tom and or somebody ran it last night.
Okay, and the very next item we just talked about, the forecast has been confirmed. It's going to be interesting, and also the balance of power has been put out as well. In the GTP class, only one change. They're taking 5 pounds and adding it to, or 5 kilograms added to the Acura. They don't have to do anything to the LMP2. Then on the GT side, the Audi is losing a percent of power and a percent of fuel capacity. The Lambo is losing 1.5 power and 1 capacity. Now that's interesting because I've always been told that the Lambo and the Audi were just about the same thing. The Mercedes is losing 1.5 power and 1 fuel capacity, and the Porsche 911, 91 or 992 is losing 1% power.
So there's been talk on the forums all week about the issue with the LMP2s in the rain being quicker than the GTPs, but I see they didn't make any changes to the LMP2.
I've seen replies to that saying that that's how it is in real life as well.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That they're so much lighter and just have more downforce in the corner when it's wet, and the because you just can't get on the power with the GTP, you lose the advantage of the hybrid system. You lose that horsepower. In fact, when when I was at the Sebring track, I was running in attack mode the whole time because I'm just not getting enough out of the hybrid that I need to recharge or run in balance mode. So I was
Not
staying,
breaking
I was
hard.
keeping not gassing hard. I was not using
Oh.
up using. I was using a lot less battery when it was wet than I am when it's dry because you just can't get the power down.
So do we think that we're going to have an influx of LMP2s, which we normally don't?
That's a possibility. But I mean, if it's dry, we're going to be faster, and then when it gets wet, they're going to be faster. And if it's it's good, so it's going to kind of ebb and flow. But if an LMP2 is catching me when it's wet, just like before, it got them, let them go. What's funny though is that Suzuka, man, they would dive bomb the LMP1s like it was like they felt like they were getting revenge almost. It's like, well, y'all dive bomb us all the time, so they would make crazy unsafe passes when it was wet.
I mean, interesting. I guess again, I always run GT3, so there's no chance of me ever getting an overall win. So it doesn't matter to me. It's just interesting, from a strategy point, how many guys are going to run the LMP2s thinking they may be able to possibly get an overall win.
In either case, that doesn't mean anything. You're talking about different class of cars. You're just on the same track at the same time.
I know, but an overall win is different than a class win. Come on, think about it.
I don't think so, unless it's a car. Unless like all of the GTPs wreck out. It's just going to come down to which car has the faster specs in the conditions, and so that has nothing to do with driver skill or driver accomplishment. It has everything to do with circumstances and specs of the car.
Well, that's what all GT3 winners say to themselves.
How many times do you see me in a GT3?
Well, you know what I mean.
I drive
When
GTP.
you're not in the GTP.
I drive the GTP, and so I'm not gonna. I think a GT3 driver that wins their class should be super proud. And quite frankly, on iRacing, a lot of the really good iRacers like to drive the GT3s anyway. They just find them more challenging. They consider them more of a challenge. So you see Tony Kanaan in a race, or Max Verstappen, he's in the GT3. He's not running the GTP.
Who, by the way, I heard he was up playing iRacing till 4 a.m. before his Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
I thought we covered that last week, didn't we?
We did, but I didn't know it was till 4 a.m.
Priorities, Mike. Priorities.
That's
He
kind of
still
like
wins the race.
It's kind of like if Greg gets onto, or Greg or Tony gets home and jumps on American Truck Sim. I'm not going to jump on the Sims /band version when I get home. I'm either gonna play real music, or I'm gonna play a game that has something to do with not work.
All right, podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate it. We are looking for a sponsor for this podcast. If you are one of them, hit me up. Check out our Discord to get involved in the discussion where I pose that question: should that guy Glenn McGee be put on David's red list? And we had a nice discussion on the Discord about it. So come in, join the fun. And then you can see our links at the iRacersLounge.com. That's the show notes where we have links to everything we talk about. We're in regular rotation at Performance Motorsports Network. And get your merchandise, your iRacersLounge.merch. It's actually iRacersLounge.shop. Sorry, you can get your merch. Fantasy. What do we got, Brad?
All right, so Bristol Motor Speedway, top 10 from there was, Lord, maybe I need to get my glasses. Guccio 24X, Shane second, Shane 7272, Connor Truman fourth, Cletus 545, Clueless Picks, Mackenzie Stevens, Mike Wuju, Lumpy68, I Race Too Slow, and then iRacing Mason. So see a couple guys in there from the Tifosi. That's good.
I'm just not doing good this year at all.
I'm
But what a
horrible.
race with the tire situation that nobody could have predicted.
It's
Wow. I
fantastic.
mean,
It's fantastic, fantastic. You had to watch every lap. It was great. Was it a little exaggerated? Yes, but it was fantastic.
What's nice though is that nobody jumped Goodyear's case and actually said, "Hey, this is." They were smart enough to say, "Yeah, we've been asking for this. We kind of got what we deserved in a way." Sure, you want them to last longer, um, and what it's running into, what you're running into though, is that there seems to be a breaking point with this particular tire that once the rubber gets in, then they stop wearing out. And so here, what happened is the because it was so cold, the rubber wouldn't go into the track.
Yeah, the
oh,
track never rubbered up at all. And look, if these guys went back next week with the same tire, they'd run 70 or 80 laps with them. They'd figure it out. I mean, that's what made it so great is it caught them off guard, and you ended up with a fantastic race. Again, you never knew what was going to happen every single lap. I had to leave midway through the race, go to a meeting. I recorded it. I came back and I watched every single lap because I didn't know what was going to happen. And it's been years since I sat down and watched every single lap because I didn't know what was going to happen.
it was weird. I had this weird deja vu effect from the 1990s. Like, we haven't seen a race where there's 5 cars on the lead lap, kind of thing, where there's comers and goers. Like, you know, Kyle, put on new tires and he's getting by 4 or 5 cars in a straightaway. He's just flying by them. We haven't seen that in decades, like you said. And I had deja vu. I really did. Now I'm also going to throw out conspiracy theorist Mike Ellis here. Look, what we were screaming about just a week ago. Everybody in the industry, horsepower. We need more horsepower. We need more horsepower. So the France family, they're like, we got to quell this. Let's bring out those special tires for this week that we've been keeping over in the warehouse.
No, I don't think it was that. I mean, again, it temperature wise, it was cool, and I think Goodyear even said 65 degrees is kind of the optimal temperature for that they ran into with these tires, and the track's not rubbering up. Again, it's concrete; it does not rubber up the same way that asphalt does. It never will. Even if it took rubber, when you hit a caution, if you watch a race from Dover, you'll see the groove come in, and you get a yellow, and then the track whitens up again because the rubber comes right back out of the track. Look, it's either or. Either we increase the horsepower or we figure out a way to get tires to fall off. It's one of the two. You can do either one. I personally would prefer to see horsepower, but it's got to go hand in hand. Um, it again it, to watch a race run its natural course. It was great. That's what happens when races run that way. I didn't feel like there's any manipulation. My only fear was that NASCAR was going to start their own cautions every 30 or 40 laps like they did at Indy. I'm just glad they didn't do that.
Well, here's
I'm
why they
giving
didn't have to.
NASCAR. I'm giving them too much credit with that conspiracy theory, right? They're not that smart.
And here's why they didn't have to throw the cautions like they did at Indy. You got no warning at Indy, and you were in the wall, and it was a lot more dangerous. Here, they could feel the cord tire, and they got warning on when they had to back off. It wasn't you're driving full speed and then pop.
Yeah, I mean, it's two different. I mean, again, you're running 180 miles an hour to the corner. I don't want anybody to pop a right front and hit the wall. That's not the case at Bristol. So again, just look, the guys that were up front were the guys that have come through either late models and had to manage tires, had to learn how to do that, and that's what you saw happen. It's been years since we've watched a race where somebody really had to manage their tires, and it was fantastic.
It was. It was too much, like you said. If they could, like Denny Hamlin said in his podcast, if they could dial it down 30%, from the wear they had, where it actually lasts almost a fuel stint. That would be perfect.
Well, you don't want to last a fuel stint. I mean, I think what I was listening to Dale Jr. this weekend. Elliott on there, and he said, I think they changed tires 3 times last fall.
Well,
3 times. That doesn't work. You can't run a tire until you run out of gas. That's the problem.
those tires, though, no, it's not about running out of gas. Those tires, they could have run for 3,000 miles. They were that hard. If it falls off but can still last a full fuel run, I think that's optimal. As long as if you don't change tires after an 80 lap run, you're going to be crap.
Well, yeah, but it was just nice to see gone are the days where guys could just run out there and run qualifying lap after qualifying lap after qualifying lap. And that's what we didn't see. And that's what made it so good to watch.
Yeah. I heard it described that the Martinsville tire could be run for 3,000 miles. It was so hard.
So what does NASCAR do now that they've got this new knowledge? They work with Goodyear, and the next short track, we're going to see something similar, or are we going to see the 3,000-mile tire again?
They will try when something latches on and they can see it as a positive. They will change it on the fly. I mean, remember when they tried double file restarts way back in the day, and everybody was like, "That's awesome!" And what happened? Now we have double file restarts in the real racing. So when something nice comes on, and they think it's manageable, they'll do it.
All right, so to close up the fantasy top 5 overall, we got Cletus 545, iRacing Mason, Connor Truman, number 4 Fat Boy 1990, and 5th Pete Racing. So good job, guys.
And let's talk Coda real quick. I mean, my boy SVG is who I'll be rooting for. They got him in a car that's going to get a start no matter what, and I think they moved AJ Allmendinger to a car that has to qualify in.
I think SVG is great. I don't expect him to. He'll run well. I wouldn't expect him to win the race. I think we saw that last year. I think at Indies he ran. Guys are too good at the tracks they've been to. Tyler Reddick. I think you got to look at him this weekend. You know what? Chase Elliott is if the car's right. He's very good on the road courses. But my money would probably be on Reddick.
Ross Chastain. Remember how Ross mixed him up last year at Coda? Was it the Xfinity or the Cup? I don't remember, but he dumped somebody for the win.
2 years ago, Coda.
Oh.
All right, let's start talking hardware. A picture is worth something. I don't know, but it looks like we've got a VPG sim release, and guess what? It is. It's another wheel. And
It's a nice wheel, though. This is the one that I referred to last week with the big knob in the middle to twist. But look at the color, the round circle color around the knobs or the buttons. That's like a neon look. I don't know if those are illuminated or those are like stickers or what, but that's a neat look.
It's the same way we looked at last week. I think the picture we had last week was real shadowed. You really couldn't see anything. So,
yeah. And remember how I was telling you the rotary knobs work where there's 12 fixed positions? You can see that a lot more clear on this picture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty cool. More to come. They're still teasing it.
All right. I know you're going to want to talk about this one, Mike. SimuCube has updated iRacing's force feedback.
Well, SemiCube put out a release to update their software called TrueDrive, and iRacing put out a release that adds support for 360 hertz force feedback for SemiCube specifically. There's a section in the app I now under the force feedback section where you can turn off the 360 hertz if you want. It defaults on. I think you put =1 is on, =0 is off. But we have several videos here this week about this from various sim racers on YouTube on how to take advantage of this. And so um, Dan Suzuki's video tells you what to do to your driving profiles, which is basically um, there's something called I think it's called the interpolar filter, and it's a drop down, and usually you have it on 2 or 3 or 4. He said basically put that to 1 on any profile, and that's going to be all you need to do. The other thing you need to do is you can, when you launch the sim, you can go back into the software, and under info, you can see where it says high fidelity force feedback or something like that. And you can basically get a confirmation that you're getting the new change. What did I think of it when I drove it? It's a little different, on curbs and bumps and stuff like that. You almost feel them when you didn't feel them before in the wheel itself. And it's subtle though. It is the what I gave at. Now Donnie Spiker on our team, he said he felt a lot more of it, but he hadn't updated his software for over a year. When I've been doing continuous updates from SimiCube, he jumped to this update from an older one, and he said he definitely felt the difference.
So the third video was the one from Will Ford that I sent to the chat, and Will Ford, I watched this, talks quite a bit about as good as it is, it may not be exactly what you think. So I guess there's some concern with lag, because it's not. I guess the way that iRacing operates, everything operates on 60 hertz, and there is some lag potentially because now you're getting 60 hertz 6 times per second or something is what he was saying. You're getting it more frequently, but it's not. I guess kind of what he was getting at is it's not like a wow. There is an increase. It's just not like holy moly, this is fantastic. It's not exactly what everybody was thinking it was going to be, perhaps.
It's a 16 millisecond delay, I think is what he said. And I think, him and Suzuki both, I think, indicated that's reasonable. I also had heard in one of these videos that this is not compatible with IRFFB, which is a third party force feedback tool that some people run. I have not run that. Your friend in the chat earlier today, David, was asking us about that, but I heard it was not compatible with this 365 because the delay is too much.
Yeah, I think the delay is even worse.
Well, if the delay is 16 milliseconds, I just typed in and did the little math. That's basically still 60 hertz. It's 62 and a half. If you divide 1 second by 16 milliseconds, you get 62 and a half.
So if you have a SimiCube wheel, you need to watch these videos or do what I said. Go change that filter to 1 and save your profiles that you normally drive. That's pretty much all you need to do. And if you want to check, if it's actually working, you can check your info tab, and you'll see that high resolution tag.
All right, next up, GSI has you covered, Mike.
Yeah, Gomez Sim Industry announces some new gloves, and I love the look at some of these. Very colorful, red and black. There's one that's kind of a multicolor, almost a NASCAR, logo multicolor thing going on. Some neon colors. They call them Aeroflex. Yeah, I just don't do gloves anymore. Yeah.
I gotta wear gloves if you've got a good wheel. I think it helps to protect it. So I didn't for years, and then once I finally got a wheel with Alcantara, I don't want to tear it up. So I couldn't race without them now.
All right, next up, we've got Sim Racing Components, who have released some images of their new Podium Dash. So this is going to be, I guess, a dashboard that can be connected to the Podium. And my first impression, first of all, there's only one image, but if you go to their Instagram, I could see another image, is that it's not particularly efficient space-wise. In fact, there's not enough buttons for the amount of space it takes up, is basically what I think.
Yeah, I thought the same thing when I looked at that. I don't like the layout. I don't like it at all. If I had to be reaching for something, just mm-mm.
It's only got about 50% of the connections that I have with the DSD setup. Particularly on the right side, it's got two really big buttons and one toggle that's got a cover like an ignition switch, and then just three knobs. And that's, I mean, it's a nice design, but it's just lacking.
We've seen this before. I think Derek Spears Designs has a version of this, and Apex has a version of this.
Well, yeah,
Now
I've got DSD on my Podium right now, and I've literally doubled the button count. Buttons.
So you would pick
knobs and
DSD
toggles.
over this one?
Easily. Yeah, there's just way more options.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, if you take the ignition controls box that you and I have, we have more inputs than this does.
This one has 10
Yeah.
button. This one has like 10 buttons or 5 buttons and 5 toggles on the left. It's got 3 knobs, a brake bias knob, an engine start button, and an ignition switch, which I guess is just turning the power on or off. So it's got 6. It's got 3 knobs or 1 toggle, 1 button, 3 knob and 4 knobs on the right side. On mine, I've got on one side, I've got 5 toggles, 6 buttons, 5 dials. Right on the right side, I've got 2 ignition type switches, a big red button, and 4 knobs, 3 buttons. No, 4 buttons and 3 knobs. So just way more.
So if I'm giving advice to somebody new, like John on our team, who's getting into it, I wouldn't recommend one of these types of products where it's very specific to the wheelbase. Um, these offshoots are made for the Podium DD1 or DD2 specifically, I think. And what happens if you change wheelbases? Then what? That really makes that standalone button box like Brad and I have much more attractive, because guess what? Our button box ain't going anywhere if we change wheelbases.
That is a very good point. I'm just lucky I haven't switched off of Podium yet, and I'll run it till it dies, of course. All right, Brad, we have a new seat.
Yeah, so speaking of riding until it dies, Next Level Racing launches a new seat. So I've got an Instagram post here from Race Department from Next Level Racing launching the reclining ERS3 Elite Sim Racing seat. Looks pretty good. Most of the reviews I saw were pretty good. Not a huge fan of a recliner, and the only issue there is flex. For me, I had one with the Abuto, and there was quite a bit of flex in there. But this has gotten some pretty good reviews.
Yeah, Sean Cole from the Sim Pit, he thought the flex would be okay, because the pivot point for the reclining is on both sides. It's not on one like the Obuto was. In fact, I remember my Abuto seat. I would kind of push back on it. It would hang on the right side, but on the left side it would go back, and it was like totally moving around. And that is the problem with recliners. But Sean Cole seemed to think that this wouldn't have that problem. $250.
Yeah, I mean, price wise, it's not bad at all. And it looks to be quite comfortable. So yeah, flex is a big thing. I would like to go back, I think, and just hard mount my seat. It's on sliders, and I do get a little bit of flex from the slider, and it aggravates the living daylights out of me. but I'm too old to hard mount it and then actually crawl out of the rig, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, I have the same thing, but I think the convenience of the slider is worth it. Like you said, it just makes it comfortable getting
It
in and out.
it does. Until now, if I could ever figure out how to swing my monitor out, that's maybe another option.
Yeah, they have stands that come
Yeah.
that way.
Sim Coaches has a product for that.
That's what I may end up having to do because, like I said, the flex does bother me quite a bit.
All right, I want to jump back to the button boxes real quick because I just got a little info from Bobby on my DSD boxes. I can swap the plates out for the different bases and keep all the exact same buttons, and it just replaces the plastic part that's holding the box in place.
Yeah, I mean, when I had years ago, I had the Club Sport wheelbase, and I had the DSD panels, and I loved it. Again, good stuff.
So I'm not as boxed in as we thought at first because if I switched, I wouldn't have to buy the whole box and all the electronics. I would just get the new plastic pieces that attach to the different wheel and swap them out. All right, I don't think these are made of plastic, Mike. We've got some P1000s with a review.
Russ Snape gives us a thorough review of the SimMagic P1000s. I was hoping John Curley would be here for the this review since he has these pedals. Um, but anyway, I don't remember this video specifically. Brad, do you?
Um, it gave it good reviews. I think this is yeah. No, I mean it was good. It was pretty detailed. Spent quite a bit of time. There's been some other ones I think that have done long term ones. I think these are a great option. Somebody else has these too on the team, and I can't remember who it is outside of John. Look,
McKinsey, maybe.
Or
I don't
Tom.
remember.
I don't remember who. I've got a SimMagic wheelbase. I looked at these weren't out. I looked at the 2000s when I was buying my stuff and ended up going with the Husenfeld Sprints. But again, from a above entry level, I think these are a really good set of pedals. Every review has been good, and they're modular. You can make changes. You can add stuff later. Um, so I really haven't heard anything bad, and I haven't really seen any issues with them anywhere.
Was kind of dreaming today during the Coda race about reconditioning my MPCC pedals, like ship them off to Lawrence at Sim Coaches and tell him to do as he wishes, make them better or something. Uh, I hate to give them up. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with them, but yeah, I was kind of thinking about that.
Well, that's the pedals I had before I sold everything, and I loved them. I absolutely loved them. So it's a great set. Shame that don't know when he went out of business and stopped doing all that. I have no idea. I've searched and couldn't find anything. So, Michael Maine was an interesting character.
He had some business problems. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, couldn't collect on sales or something.
All right, we need one of our Canadian guys on for this next one, right? Because they're always complaining.
Right.
They're always complaining about the weakness of their dollar compared to the U.S. dollar, right? Well, we could use this technique to save them some money.
Look, this had Tony Groves written all over it, who used to be on our team. Man, maple syrup for the liquid cooling on this computer. The guy says, "Look, it's a little hard when the computer's cool, but boy, once it warms up a little bit, the maple syrup starts flowing real well. The heat from the computer itself gets that viscosity going in the maple syrup where it actually flows. It takes a little bit to get it to flow, but once it does, it seems to work. The cleanup looks like a mess, though.
All right. Well, first of all, it's pancake syrup. It's not maple syrup. So let's stop right there. It's a good thing we don't have any of our Canadian friends on here because they probably would
Did I
have told
just
us
do
that.
sacrilege or something?
You did. He holds up the bottle and it's just pancake syrup. It's not even maple syrup.
I'm afraid I have to
It's
throw a little
sugar.
throw a little science though to shoot this plan in the foot though. The specific heat of maple syrup is 2 joules per gram, whereas the specific heat of water is 4.18 joules per gram. In other words, water can carry more heat per volume.
I just don't know why somebody would even try this. I don't even understand.
So it would be less efficient.
Yep. It was a good TikTok video. Look, it's probably his old computer. He's throwing out. He's like, "Oh, we'll get a video out of this."
When I first saw it, I thought they were setting it up for the hydraulic brakes or something. That would be funny as well. Try to stick some. That would be really stupid because, boy, those suckers would get sticky. All right. So how did it start, Brad?
Yeah, so we had a post from Max Pappas Industries about how this is how we started with Tom Cornell and Rocco Cornell and the F4 Taurus steering wheel, and that's how we finished. So I'm not sure if this was a kind of a throwback to where MPI started with the sim stuff, or really was kind of confused on this, to be honest with you.
Well, it says the same process is available to you. Does that mean you can like actually work with him to design a wheel? Is that what he's saying?
I think so. They sell these.
Yeah, but I'm not just talking about selling this particular wheel, but that they'll actually sell you
Yeah,
a custom designed wheel.
well, that, or did they? I'm trying to look at the pictures. I'm wondering, did they recondition it or did they recreate it? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I think it looks like it's recreated.
Actually, I think it's reconditioned. Is what it looks like.
Yeah, it could be. The grip tape is on the first one. That it's a very obvious. They have tennis grip tape on the grips, and then on the second and third picture, that grip tape's removed. You get down to the original grip. But you're right. I think the
Yeah.
middle display is still the same.
Yeah, it looks like they've gone in and reconditioned it. So, added the grips, the traditional MPI with the orange thread, on the inside of the grips, and then it's got the.
So they'll refurbish your wheels, is what they're saying.
I guess so. I imagine that would cost a pretty penny.
Probably
And
to make it worth it, not as much as a new wheel.
I just assumed it was a sim wheel, but now that we look at this closer, I don't think they're selling a sim wheel.
No, this is an F4 wheel, so.
But they have 2 other products that are sim related, so let's jump onto those. They announced this week their 5 to 6 bolt wheel adapter. Oh man, I needed this when I bought my wheel really bad. And of course MPI didn't offer it, and I had to go to Amazon to get such a thing.
So your wheel is it a 3-bolt?
Yes. I have some kind of adapter. I don't know if it was this one I needed, but I have this Amazon neck or extender piece, and I definitely have some kind of adapter to go from. I think I have like a small plate that takes it 3 to 5, and then I have another adapter. It looks like this that takes it 5 to 6.
They also have a seat.
So anyway, the seat makes me mad. Okay, look, when I built my rig, and the timing of buying the equipment and building my rig, when I was designing the equipment list, it was based on a picture of this frickin' seat on Max Pappas Industries website. They had a page called SimMax where they listed their sim products, and they had this nice looking seat featured, black and orange, and I'm like, cool. It looked like the black and orange on their steering wheels. I'm going to design a rig around this seat and the steering wheel. That was going to be the centerpiece. Guess what? It was never for sale. It was just a picture of it. I called MPI. Like, dude, take my money. Sell me that wheel or that seat. Oh, we don't have that for sale. So here we are 2.5 years later, 3.5, is it 2.5? Yeah, 2.5 years later, they finally have it for sale, $550.
It's nice looking though. It is so nice looking.
Oh, if I was buying a rig today, I'd buy this second. You're right. I love the look of it. It's got black and gray and orange, and I really dig the orange stuff. I don't know why. It's got a head surround, but it's kind of a exaggerated in case you're running VR. It won't get in the way. But look, is this better than a NRG $350 seat like you and I have? No, just looks better.
Yeah, probably not. You're right, but it looks good.
I have been super happy with my Sparko seat. It's just so comfortable when
Sparko
in
makes
How
a
much
good seat.
was it?
long run races. Say what?
How much?
I think it was right at 600.
Yeah, see, you're buying quality there. Yeah, Sparko is definitely would be a centerpiece for a rig too, I think.
It's just the right shape that you don't have any pressure points. Um, I've talked about it before, but when I used to race in the office chair, any long race would become very uncomfortable on the tailbone, and I can sit in this thing for 4 hours and not get uncomfortable.
Oh, it's finding a good seat is important. You just you don't think about it, but it's very important. I mean, I would suggest anybody that's looking to build something, or there's a bunch of YouTube videos out there talking about when the ergonomics of creating a rig, getting the right position of your wheel and all that stuff is important. You're going to spend a long time in this thing, and you need to be in the right position. When guys get fitted for a cockpit in the race car, there's certain things that they want, and they want to be set up to where they're not going to have stress points. You're not going to have pain points and stuff like that. So those things you don't think about, but you need to think about when you're setting up your rig, to take the time and get it set up properly.
Just another reason not to have a reclining seat, right? Just one less thing that you have to dial in. Just get a seat that doesn't move like this one. Yeah, this one's a beauty, guys. If you're in the market, man, you got to look at this seat.
All right, this next title is a little bit misleading, I think, maybe, but what we have is it's Sean from the Sim Pit, and he tackles the ultimate DIY sim rig challenge against co-host Amir. And what he does is he basically is building a Sean Cole Forever rig from scratch, complete with commentary and epic racing gear. Now, I guess it's sort of DIY, but it's still 80/20 gear, right?
Yeah, but it's all extrusion that he had. So he basically buys all the angle pieces and everything like that, and there's no sort of plans. He's using smaller extrusion. I don't know if it's 30/30 is what it is. And he goes into detail, talks about there is some flex, and he had to kind of work to reinforce some stuff. I haven't seen what Amir's was on this. I know there's kind of a challenge between the two of them. But this was a really, I think it was a neat video for those that are willing to tackle something like this. It's way out of my wheelhouse. Give me the box, give me the instructions, let me put it together, and I'm good. I'm just not that intuitive when it comes to building stuff. But there's guys out there that are like that. And you can pick up some of this stuff. You can pick up extrusion, not that expensive. Again, if you're willing to take the time to figure out your plans and what you're going to do.
And there's software where you can design it as well, because we've seen Bobby post his rig that he designed for his son.
Some massive equipment on here. This massive wheelbase from this place in Florida. I can't remember the name of it. And their
Ricmotech.
pedals, the Triton pedal. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ricmotech.
Yep.
The Ricmotech base and their pedals. Their pedals are like what, $2,000 or something crazy. Anyway, what was unique for me on this video was the way he did his triple monitors. He basically mounted the center monitor on the wall and had this contraption, and it didn't work out exactly how he liked, and he kind of started over. He totally ripped everything down and repositioned it, and now he's got his computer behind the monitors as well, um, and he's using the wall, mounting it on the wall. It's a neat idea, to kind of make a clean look instead of having an actual stand.
Yeah, like I said, it was a pretty neat video. Again, it kind of makes you think sometimes that if it's probably a cheaper way to go. It depends on what you want to do. Again, I'm just not. I'm not going to build a deck. I'm not going to be able to build a house. It's just not my that I don't have the skill set for that. So give me the instructions, give me all the pieces cut. I can follow directions very well.
Yeah, yeah, this isn't for me either, but you're right. There's some people out there that are very handy, and and you're right. Some people are in a budget, and this is what they can afford. So
All right, next up we have Sarah Nochi building a TR-160S. Uh, it's just a short video for a build, so I'm wondering if I didn't watch the video, but I'm gonna guess that she didn't film all of the putting it together. But she went with the TR-160S because she thought it or featured the best of all of the worlds of rigidity, adjustability, and looks. She particularly likes the blue color, which is definitely a nice looking color. I wish black was available when I got my rig, but they didn't have them in stock.
Black or blue?
She went blue. I would have preferred to have had black extrusion instead of silver.
Oh, you got silver. I love the blue. I love that. That this wasn't when I bought mine. I've got a TR 160. There was no option other than black when I bought mine, but that the blue is awesome looking.
this is the 160S, and man, I've been intrigued at how this thing came together. I think she did get it together really quick, David, because the way the pieces go together and it's designed, you're not using these little corner brackets like SimLab style. They got these big pieces that hook the big pieces together, and it looks like it goes together really quick. I love the look at this. I don't know, Brad, can you tell me what's different between yours and this one?
The all the corner pieces, the on the chassis part, like that's on the floor, it's got the solid rails versus the I've got the four. Now my issue with that is that limits what you can attach to it. That would be a concern for me. Same thing with the uprights. You just got the two channels versus a four channel. That's the only thing I don't like about this is the limit to the channels. Because I think you just lose some of the flexibility when it comes to adding stuff. You know, you can throw a T nut in a channel and add almost anything you want to. That's what I love about 80/20 rigs. It's just the flexibility. But I love the blue color, but as bad as nicked up as my black is, that blue would drive me bat crap crazy because I would be just as messed up.
She did do a lot of time warping in the installation segment because otherwise she would have put it all together in 3 minutes.
Trust me, I worked on mine for like 2 days, getting
My
frustrated.
sim lab took me a day, and I do believe that I put something on backwards and had to start part of it over.
Yep,
Now,
same thing.
now we had heard Track Racer ships their stuff dirty, get unbox it outside, and I didn't see that she had this problem at all, or she left that out on the editing floor.
And it may be because this is painted and powder coated. I don't know. But I can tell you, in hindsight, I wish I'd have taken mine apart and cleaned it up in the garage before I brought it in because I
Or
spent, you know, what was that?
I was gonna say, or they got the feedback and addressed the problem.
That's possible too. But I mean, I was vacuuming up metal shavings for weeks, unfortunately, and everything was greasy and dirty. If my wife had come downstairs and seen the shape the carpet was in when I was doing it, she probably would have killed me.
Did y'all watch the segment at 6:52 where she reviewed the build process?
Well, I was gonna say I watched the unboxing carefully to see if I could see those metal shavings and stuff, and I didn't see it at all as she was pulling it out of the box.
Well, I mean, I can tell you for me, it was, it's more in your hands, and it was just it is what it is. And I had watched videos, and they talked about that, and I guess in my eagerness to want to get the thing put together, that's probably my mistake. I should have just taken time to clean it.
Now, the first video we saw from Sarah, she bought the Alpine track racer tubular one. I forget the model number. And now she's got this TR 160S, and they're both in the nice blue. Really nice to have the complementing rigs together. Cool.
Yeah, I did catch as you guys were talking. I listened to a little bit of the review process, and she said she was surprised with how much easier this one was to put together, or that easier than she was expecting, at least. Is it time for some results, Mike?
It is. So let's jump to NIS Friday Open Bristol, a P8. I had about a minute damage and 16 incident points. I drove through the field at least once, was able to bring it home. P8. Wow, I'll take a nice top 10 after another tough week. Justin, P32. Just got dumped at the end. I was fast. I led 68 laps. Yeah, Justin was knocking on the door, boys. Too bad he couldn't close the deal. David, P16.
Yeah, this one was a shit show with like 19 cautions, and I finished with 22X. Eight of them were over sensitive iRacing X's, like literally checkups, so just little taps on restarts where you're just getting up against the guy and trying to shove him. And I posted a video in chat of an X I got, a 4X I got in at Coda yesterday. That just it seems too ticky tacky now. Like we're not talking you run somebody and wreck them, but you just barely tap them and it's throwing out 4X's left and right. And that's basically made me have to tiptoe home. And it did end up being an okay points day, but I got a better result Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, a 4X, I would anticipate some damage, and that's just not the case anymore. Again, bumper tag, and you're getting 4Xs. Very frustrating.
All right, Kyle Pendergraph, black flag drive-through penalty. Tony Rochette, self-wrecked. Typical Bristol BS with 40 to go, was on the inside of a guy coming out of the corner, drifted up just a smidge and just wrecked a few cars. My new presidential spotter called me a dumb son of a
That sound from the phone couldn't have been better.
Sunday Open. Bristol, I ran, I wrecked out. A total of four teammates in the same split. At one point, Chris Waldron got wrecked and was spun out, and I came down the track. I went to the apron to miss him and actually T-boned him really hard, my own teammate. Uh, Later on, someone didn't understand the car high and just ran me up into the fence. DNF. David, P11.
Yeah, I had a top 15 car. This was the top split. Me and Tom were in here. I got sent to the back late twice. The first time was an unavoidable wreck towards at the very front of the field. I just couldn't avoid him, and I wasn't as damaged as I thought I was. Got it all fixed, or got enough of it fixed to get back out on the field. Second time, I just jumped up on the track because everybody was stopped at the exit for some reason. I think because a lap car was trying to let somebody pass them or something. And my first reaction was just pull up on the track, and I got unsafe pit exit. I had to come back up through again, but I managed to avoid a big one where I got through about 10 wrecked cars. And on the last white, green, white checkered, I had to go conservative because I was sitting at like 16 X's. And as a result, dropped from ninth to 11th. But being top split, that still paid off really well. And at the time, that put me back in the lead of Division Two.
Well done on the points for sure. Justin, P30, was doing decent, got involved in a caution, and during the caution laps, it told me to let a car by, and that car wasn't on track at all. So it was impossible for him to pass me. So I got a passing under yellow penalty, completely ruined my really good race. Tony was doored by a car bouncing off the outside wall and put me in the inside wall on lap 3. 6 minutes required. Yeah, I wasn't waiting. At least the guy apologized. Brian Curry, P1. He wins it. He says he didn't qualify well, but slowly worked my way to the front. I got dumped on a restart running P2. Spent the next 100 laps fixing damage during cautions. Got a caution with 25 laps left and pitted for right. Others took 4, but my 2 tires were good enough to get the lead and hold them off for the win. Redemption after throwing the win away last week at Phoenix. Yeah, Brian's on fire. I mean, he won Phoenix, lost it on a technicality, and now he's won Bristol. Well done. Chris, P21, had a smoking fast car, was running 4th at halfway, and got doored by 3rd trying to pass, got loosed and wrecked P21. Tom Dreiling wrecked out. And then John, P11. I had only done about 15 minutes of practice at Bristol earlier in the week, so I did not feel comfortable qualifying. I figured I should stay out of the way of guys who were better prepared, so I didn't qualify. Started P35 out of 36. My hope was that I gained spots by passing and attrition. I did get some damage twice from typical Bristol stack up wrecks, but nothing you wouldn't expect. Because of the damage and an unsafe pit exit, I went 4 laps down. But I passed a few cars and gained spots by other people wrecking. I was lucky dog on both green white checkers and got within 2 laps of the leader. P10 was a lap down, so I was hoping he wrecked on one of them, but he didn't. I was happy with this one, P11. We move on to Sunday Fixed, T7, my best finish of the week. Kept getting involved in cautions that were not my doing with no damage, racking up those incident points. Eventually got my drive-through penalty, took a wave around, and then fought really hard for that lucky dog, and then drove it back up there and to finish P7. So it was great to get a top 10 after the incident problem that we've been all facing. I was able to recover, but I ran my butt off to do it. Justin, P21, took 4 minutes damage within a couple laps and 1 lap down. Took until 50-ish laps to go to get all my damage fixed and get back on the lead lap running in the top 10. Then someone takes me three wide and wrecks us all that work for nothing. Tom Dreiling, P12, after playing bumper tag with Adam. Jocelyn, Adam wrecked out. I think Adam just lost talent and spun out. Let's move to Coda, Texas. I was wrecked out about halfway through the first fuel run, approaching the final set of turns. On the track, there's a guy off the track, stopped. So I keep on going by. And right as I do, he decides to pull out and go straight across the track towards the entrance of pit road. And I could not miss him. It was too late. I T-boned him. Yeah, that was a protest. Like straight across the track. Like he's on the opposite side of the pit road entrance. He goes perpendicular straight across the track, but doesn't go onto the track until I'm like right there. I mean, he never even saw me coming.
He'll probably just get a warning.
All right, David, P18.
Yeah, I was car like 35, I think, or so, and was just slow. And it's just a no. I got bumped into early and lost about 7 seconds of it, but I got everything back that I would have gotten back over the 30 laps. It was just slow.
All right, Justin, P8. Nothing really special, just kept it on track. I need to get better. Brad, P12.
P12 finished where I started. Kind of like David, just rather uneventful race. The only good thing was, as I continued to run, continued to pick up time to get a little bit better. So sometimes I think you can get out there and you can hot lap, but you actually get in a race, you drive a little bit different. So ended up with only 3 incident points, so I was super happy with that. But I'm done with Coda.
you're right. When I get into the race and start getting in a rhythm, I can do some decent laps, at least for me, 116s. But before the races on Tuesday, when I was trying to practice AI races and put up a lap time, I was in the 21s or something. I wasn't even close. But boy, put me in a race, yeah, my times will pick up. Chris got a P3, only 11x, and 5 of that came on the last lap. Bottom split, so whopping points pay out of 29 points for a P3. Is our point system broke?
And it's based on strength of field. It's just when
Too
we're.
much,
I've
maybe.
told you. I've told you when we're running the road courses, the points are irrelevant. These are all going
It's
to
going to
be
be a drop.
end up being drop
Right.
weeks. I'm
Yeah. I mean, look, I got 72 points last night, and my two horrible finishes in Atlanta, I had 79. So which one's going to be the drop? I mean, to me, it's not much of a difference.
okay. My P16 was 160 points, and if I'd have gotten a P5 today, I would have got 85 points.
Oh, I know. It's again. I mean, yeah. I don't. Is it broke? No, but I don't know of any other better way to do it. It would not do well to stick us in by our oval I rating because it would be an absolute disaster.
It wasn't before.
We have been there, done that.
Yeah, that's the way it used to be.
I know it's the way it used to be, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe.
All right,
What
today,
made people
Thursday.
yeah, what would make people mad is that the road course ringers who would come in and not have a high oval I rating and would win the lower splits, and that's why everybody wanted to change it.
All right. Today, Thursday, I ran P15. I'll take it with 24 incidents out of 25. Lots of run-ins with idiots is what I called it. Was able to bring it home. It was really hard to keep a mental focus at the end. There were several people in the race saying it over the radio. Some people fading. Uh, this is a hard race, and I was telling I forget the guy who we had in our chat as a guest, but I was telling him, man, that's what this series sets it apart from some of the other series because it's a little bit longer than A Open, and that extra distance, especially at a track like this, it just separates the men from the boys. And anyway, I was pretty pleased with the 15th, but we'll probably try again Friday.
You also
David,
get
you
a
got a
limited
DNF.
Yeah, you also get a limited number of starts, which is what makes it a little bit different as well. Yeah, I was running good in this one, was gonna finish P5 if it had all worked out. And I'm coming down the long stretch, and I guess I just downshift too soon and blow the motor. Pop.
It wasn't going to the second when you meant to go to third or
You
something like
can't, it's a
that.
sequential. You can't do that.
Yeah. I was thinking about that last night. I was like, if they ever really model transmission and engine abuse, man, I'm done because I was just jamming with everything last night when I was racing.
Yeah, this was like the 80th or 90th lap I've turned at Coda this week. And boom, it just, I guess, popped it into first gear too soon, coming out of second as I was downshifting. And I wasn't trying. If anything, I was kind of relaxed because the guys behind me were not catching me, and I was not going to catch the guys in front of me. And I was just pop, 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 pop. Just okay. I'm just going to downshift and make sure I don't, brake too late and drive through the corner. And boom, the engine exploded.
Right. A Open, Brad, P11.
Yep. So I ran Tuesday night just to do a test for NIS. Started 17th. Avoided some early incidents. Again, just like last night, as the race progressed, just continued to pick up more speed. Was completely floored that I ended up finishing the race with 0x. As crazy as the off tracks are there, I was really trying to be careful. And I think I even posted in the chat, as frustrated as that was, end up with a 0x. I think I picked up like 0.19 on my safety rating. I was like, really? Come on.
You'd think it'd be more than that. Be Open John, P3. This race is why I love iRacing. Started P5. On the start, the pole sitter blew up his car and caused a stack up. P3 ran into P1. I ran into P3, and P7 ran into the back of me and shot me into the grass. No yellow. Thank God somebody spun in turn one and brought out that yellow. I was able to pit and get my damage repaired, but came out of the pits P23. Got tires under yellow on lap 10, pitted under yellow around lap 36, and came out P16. Took tires again under yellow on lap 45. I knew I saved tires. I could gain ground on a long run because everyone else was obviously wasting theirs. Caution came out with 2 to go, put me in P9, another quick yellow, P8. On the second green white checker, 5 cars in front of me overdrove and bumped each other. I shot into P3 coming out of turn 2 and stayed there for a podium. Man, I thought that crash on the start ruined my race, but I never gave up. That's fun in iRacing where you have that despair. Oh man, I just got totaled. I mean, how many times do we say that on the radio? I just got wrecked. I'm done. But then you're actually not done, and you continue on and you get a podium. That's amazing. All right, IMSA, Brad, P5.
Yep. So I ran Suzuka last week in the rain. It was a challenge. You know, it, had to kind of learn to avoid the spray. Trying to manage the wet line that was continuing to change. Even though it was 45 minutes of really nothing but butt pucker, and that's what I told my wife. I was like, literally, I'm clenched the entire time. It's just you're on edge, not really knowing what every corner is going to be like. It was fun. I don't want to do it every single week. I just don't. It's not what I look forward to. But overall, I talked to David a little bit. It was really cool to see how the dry line would start just by cars, racing on the track. Rain was still falling, but you really were chasing the line. So I think iRacing really did a good job with this. And then I ran Sebring yesterday. Started P12, was running the top 10, and like I was telling David earlier, had a guy decide to rejoin the track in the Le Mans chicanes. Just pops me in the right rear. I get hit by a GTP. 6 minutes are required. Just frustration. Why guys can't sit still. I got hit, got spun. I sit there and I wait until the cars are. I wait. I'm losing spots. I don't care. I'm not going to pull back out in front of somebody and ruin their race.
Yeah, that's smart. I ran some. I mentioned Shane Van Gisbergen did a hosted at Road Atlanta. That was a lot of fun. Thanks, Shane. Hope he runs well this weekend. And then I ran FIA F4 at Snetterton, one of the new free tracks. Uh, First time trying Dan Suzuki's 360 hertz semi-cube profile after that update. Started at 16th, got the 9th on the first lap, steadily worked my way forward and finished P3 on the podium. The force feedback feels really good. I liked it. Okay, so that brings us to final thoughts, David Hall.
Right here, I have unboxed 32 gig of DDR5 RAM Corsair, 62 megahertz or 6200 megahertz. I will sell it under market value. I ordered too much back when I built this PC, and I was doing some spring cleaning this week and forgot I hadn't unloaded it yet. So if there's a listener that wants a shot at it before I go on like Facebook Marketplace or something like that, just contact me. I'm not worried about getting all my money back. I just want to get it out of here.
Not used.
Unboxed or still
brand
boxed. Yeah, I hadn't even opened it. So.
Right. Brad Wren, final thought.
Glad Coda's in the review. Sad I'm going to be out of town this weekend, so couldn't run 12 hours of Sebring as much as I love the endurance racing. But we'll get ready for the next one. Kind of just again, kind of getting ready to get into that grind with NIS. Already starting to look at the points and seeing where guys are dropping. To start to see it start to dwindle down. 4 weeks recorded, 5 weeks, and stuff like that. So, continuing to move up. Currently, I think 27th points. Still got some work to do to catch up with you guys. Just trying to get in the mind set, you're ready to get into a real long season. So keep on hitting it.
Right. Yeah. I was telling you guys in the chat, this is kind of the week I think that a lot of folks drop off that aren't going to be full seasoners. They may have participated up until this point, but man, the code really separates the men from the boys, and a lot of people drop off, I think, this week, and help us with that. Greg Hectus, you're back for final thoughts. I know you got a P3 on Wednesday.
It was a P6 because that's what you scored.
So let's talk about that. Tifosi Racing Facebook page is facing a permanent ban of our page because of copyright strikes. And one of them was David Hall sitting on pit road at Phoenix, where you can hear the country music through the PA system, and so that triggered Warner Music Group to copyright us. And then Greg, you had one too that hit us.
Yours seems to be because that you use the same stream in two places, and it was like each it was like both pages busted the other page for copyright.
We're not, yeah, we're not streaming to Facebook. That's what we.
No, I'm not streaming to the Tifosi page anymore, but I went to my homepage and didn't have a problem today.
Yeah. So, all right. My final thought. Yeah, Coda wasn't very much fun for me. Like I said, it's a really a mental exercise more than anything to get through it. Can't wait for next week. And we'll get it. Got my tax returns. I'm sitting on a little money. I'm thinking, is it time for a new computer? Is it time to refurbish my pedals? Is it time to get new triples? I don't know. Spend my money. Let me know what I should buy.
Oh,
You can get
Oh,
those
buy
cameras on the
David's
cheap.
RAM.
I've got to pay taxes so you can send some my way.
Yeah. All right. With that, we'll see you on the track later. All right. 5 title ideas.